I think we should check with the commodities market first before we go to the stock exchange. Those fruits and vegetables on your screen looks really appetizing. So I think I just got caught with that. Bolanle is here. Bolanle Agbaje is one of the economists and research analysts at Financial Derivatives Company. Good morning. It's good to have you.
Good morning.
I just got caught with that, and I thought that's a nice way to. But it looks like prices of these goods will start going up, and that's a conversation we had off the camera. We need to put that on our burning issues because the flooding and everything is happening not just in Nigeria, but from west to east, from China all the way to the U.S. So is it time for every one of us here at home to start paying attention to what is in the news and not just wish it away because we're heavily import dependent when it comes to food?
Yes, so looking at some of the global commodities that we track, wheat, corn, sugar, cocoa, most of all these commodities, the prices are actually increasing, and it's a cause for concern because although we see these fluctuations in the prices of these goods, but at this point where natural disasters keep happening, they're becoming more rampant in the economy or in different economies, they would affect the supply of some of these goods. As much as the demand is being affected by the trade wars between US and China, but the supply aspect of them is also, very important. For example, wheat is up, by about 0.7% to about $5 per bushel, and the reason for that is because of reduced supply in Australia. We also have the fact that corn is up as well to about $3.4 per bushel as well, and that has to do with, because US is one of the top producers of corn, and we've seen significant decline in the yields, that have been produced within the US, especially in southern parts of the US. We've seen the hurricanes in some of parts of the country as well. Cocoa is also up marginally, but that has to do with the growing concerns in both Ivory Coast and even in Nigeria, because I think we're number 3 when it comes to the production of cocoa. So that has also affected the price. Although we do expect that the trend for cocoa prices will keep going up, and which is great for us because it's one of our major exports as well. And we've not seen any significant dampening of these floods. If in fact we're seeing that the floods are getting worse in both countries. And finally, with sugar is a different story in the sense that supply has actually reduced within India, but the Indian government is actually doing so much by doubling the subsidies for some of these exporters, so to make sure that they produce ample sugar. So we do
and push it to the global market.
Exactly. So we do expect the price of sugar to decline as time goes on.
Here we have the Standard Organization and others trying to clamp down on adulterated sugar in the market, which is bad business for those who are producing sugar legally in Nigeria. Yes, you have quite a few companies doing sugar. Dangote is one of those who have a refinery down there. So if you bring in adulterated sugar, which folks says are brought in across the borders, land borders.
Yeah, so, well, with the decline in sugar prices, we do expect that as part of our imports, it should be favorable, but it doesn't really help, some of the producers of sugar within the country. So sugar is just the only one we're smiling at the moment, but wheat, corn, which are also a huge part of our imports, it's not favorable. So it's time for individuals to brace up for, increased prices of these commodities.
So some of these commodities are largely coming in through the oceans, and we're importing them with petrodollar. But again, locally, the substitutes would also be affected by our own internal flooding that we're seeing across a number of states.
Yeah, so if we are having supply shortfalls, then it means that the price pressure or the export prices within the country would obviously affect the local prices of some of these commodities, and even the multiplier effect. If some of these particular commodities have increased in prices, it would obviously trickle down to some other commodities through the substitution or the complement effect as well.
Yeah, because, we need to deal with this.
Yeah.
Again, if wheat prices, also the premium bread makers have served a notice that the price of my favorite bread is going up.
Yeah.
And that's not good news. I'm still managing the current prices, we don't know. But with wheat prices going up globally, which is a major input into bread,
yes.
this beginning to ring true that the bread makers aren't just crying wolf when there is none. That makes sense. But let's go back to the front page where we have a number of burning issues and quite a few things are burning. Nigeria Air is off air before it even takes off. The only way it took off was on paper. Well, and then that's the only airline that took off on paper. Yeah. It never really went off. It never went off. I thought some folks says they were hoping to catch on flights to Canada from there, but it does not happen. Social media was anything else since yesterday evening. Yeah, so I couldn't hide my face.
Looking at that, we don't have details of the reason why they've cancelled this project after 2 months. But our suggestion is the fact that there are obviously funding issues. Our debt is increasing rapidly, and I'm sure the government has obviously thought of the fact that to do this, they need to do it right. We've had issues with the past, Nigerian Airways, and they don't want to probably make the same mistake anymore. So they might as well cancel it or suspend it as at now, when it hasn't even kicked off.
There's no money. Yeah. Because we were to flag this with $300 million.
It's huge.
And $300 million is a lot of money to Nigeria right now. We have minimum wage promise to keep within the next 10 days. Yeah. The Labour Congress says, we need our minimum wage. You promised us in February, Labour Minister, that you're going to announce the new minimum wage in the third quarter. Third quarter is the end of September. Today is the 20th. We have 10 more days. So looking down the barrel here, that you have to announce the minimum wage nationally, then for an airline that is still on paper, we might as well leave the Nigeria Air on paper and then deal with, because election is coming. And folks need their more salaries than wages.
Yeah, and well, it's even threatening because, part of Buhari's or President Buhari's, some of his topics when he started his campaign in 2015 were the fact that, he was going to bring up the Nigerian Airways and all that. So it caused questions for some, supporters that, this is something that you wanted to do, but towards the end of your term,
times are hard.
Yeah.
Times are hard, Bolanle. Times are hard. We haven't resolved the 2018 budget. Yeah. By now, we should be having conversations about 2019 budget. The National Assembly folks are not yet back in the chambers. Maybe Tuesday next week, they will all come back. And we all know what's going to happen when they come back. Yeah. Politics is king. So nobody wants to. We can use the current airline for now. We can keep Nigeria Airways as it were. But again, what else is making the headline this morning? The state of the state shows that some states are fiscally unsustainable. That's what the latest news is saying. Lagos State is ramping up more debt. Its overhead is going up. Yes, a lot of things are being built in the state. Do you think this is something we need to watch out for across board?
Yes, it is, because what happens is when debt rises within a particular state or even in a country, what it signals is the fact that interest rates are most likely to rise as well. Inflation, debt servicing cost, so those are some of the issues that we need to look into. Lagos State now is about it accounts for about 15% of total domestic debt, and which is quite huge. So it's time to look into, especially now that elections are coming up. These are some of the key factors that would be looked into.
So if we just separate what is good news and what is not so good in 30 seconds, let's look at the box. Looks like a balanced portfolio. Brent price almost at 80.
Great news.
On the left side, stock markets.
Great news for us, Brent price, revenue accretion. But at this point, it seems like the money coming in is way less than the money going out. We've seen huge capital flows. And it's also mentioned by the UK inflation numbers that were released as well. They have increased. So that obviously signals a possible rate hike in their next meeting. And what that means is capital reversal flows as well. So it suggests that the money leaving this country is actually more than the money coming in. So it's nice to smile about the Brent price. $80 per barrel is great, but it's still not. And our reserves they keep depleting.
Don't tell me to use two different toothbrush. One here, the other here. I'm smiling here, then the other one here. I'm not smiling. That's what you want me to do. Two-faced. That's what it is. Oh no, that's not patronizing anymore. It's called two-faced. Thank you very much. Have a great day.